We are officially 1 week away from week one of the NFL draft. Jordan, let me just say, it has been a week. I didn't even tell you about my Saturday, and we can get into that real quick. So my roommate gets home on Friday night, and he's like, hey, I have to do it because he works for like an electrical company, and they do deliveries. He's like, I got to do an emergency delivery to Richmond at 7 tomorrow. Do you want to drive with me so I'm not bored? Saturday, I'm like, yeah, sure, 7 a.m. We'll get up, no problem, get up early. He's like, oh, you misunderstood. We got to be at Richmond at 7 a.m.
Oh, boy.
So I went to bed at 7 o'clock on Friday, woke up at 2:30, got there, got back. As soon as I get home, I remember, oh, crap, I agreed to meet my mom, King of Prussia, which is an hour and a half the other way for lunch. So I drove to Philly, then got back, and I was tired. It was a long, long day.
Sounds like a very, very long Saturday, Brett.
It was a very long Saturday. But yeah, we are in the home stretch, and it has been, and we say this all the time, this has been one of the most interesting draft seasons for me and the Miami Dolphins in general. Because one, there's no Chris Greer like we know, but this is the first time we have done a complete reset since when we hired Bill Parcells.
So. It pretty much seems like it. This is definitely the closest we've come to fully knocking it down and building it back up.
Yep.
But it's exciting, you know, like you said, we're 1 week away. And it's still it's funny because you look at like those live lines of where guys are protected to be drafted. And it's almost like people have a good feel of like 1 through 10. And it seems like everybody's struggling to pinpoint what the Dolphins are going to do because we could go in just about any direction.
Yeah. Yeah, and we got some blind rankings. I know you had 3 for me. Had an idea of also doing – I had an idea for us what we did a couple weeks ago and do like 2 positions that make the most sense for us as well. Mm-hmm. Real quick, though, I don't know if you saw it, but Sully had his pre-draft presser yesterday, and a couple things came out. He flat out came out and said HN is not for sale, and I just saw a report that HN was at the facilities today in a sign of good faith.
Good.
And the big thing he flat out has said is we are going to be a best player available team. The needs are obvious where we are, but you don't pass on talent just for need. And his exact words were, I've been in a position where you think you have a loaded room and you're a hamstring or a bum ankle away from being in crisis mode. So he is very much stressing best player available. And the final point that I thought was interesting was he did come out and say it is more likely we trade down to get more picks than trade up. And he flat out said we need more picks. So just real quick, your thoughts on those.
I think you and I talked about it. I'll start with the last point, which was the picks. I'd be shocked if we trade down and don't pick up some sort of 2027 pick. The thing I keep doing in the mocks I'm doing is I think we're going to pick at 11. I really do. But I think 30 is a place we might move and pick up a second rounder and then a second rounder next year. But again, we could go in a million different ways. The HN thing, I think this is the first Dolphins regime that we've had in a while where players could still be negotiating things, figuring things out behind the scenes, and also still focused on football. It was great to see. I saw he said something about Malik Willis bringing in about 20 guys to work out on their own. And obviously you've seen all the work Malik's putting in. I know a couple of them went to the Panthers game together. It seems like this team is working on building a culture and building an identity and building a brotherhood. And that's something that I feel like has been mostly talk in years past. And it's nice to see already so soon, like it start to turn into a direction where they're actually doing this.
Yeah. And to go along with that, Jeff Hafley was on the Lebitard show where they released the interview today.
That was great.
Yeah. A lot of good stories. One thing that really stuck out is he flat out said, I'm not here to be your friend. And no disrespect to Mike McDaniel, but it's become very clear, and I think Jeff Darlington alluded to it on the Joe Rose show. issue he had is there wasn't that. This might be a little unfair, but there what didn't seem to be that respect of boss and employee. It seemed like it was coworkers kind of thing.
Well, you could tell when you hear Jeff Halfley talk, and he said it to Levitard, but he said he talked for a while about how, and I don't think content is the word, but how happy he is with where he is in his life right now. And I think that shows. And I think that Mike McDaniel, again, all respect to Mike, but we both said we think Mike has the opportunity to be a great head coach at his next stop if he learns from Harbaugh and does the things he needs to do to grow as a person. But I think that growth as a person that you're talking about, Halfley already has. And it's that confidence that you hear when he talks about the direction that he wants to lead his team. And he flat out said, he's like, I just want to win. Like, I don't care about all the other stuff. I don't care about who takes credit. I don't care about who is the star. I don't care who's like, I just want to win. And I think that for Dolphin fans, especially Dolphin fans like you and I, like who are not teenagers anymore and are not in our early 20s anymore and are not like we're grown men and we've been watching this team go through the same exact thing since we were kids. Yep. And so I think a lot like Halfley is saying, man, at this point, like I'm at the peak of where I want to be, and now I just want to win. I think Dolphin fans are in the same boat where we're like, look, we don't care who's on the roster. We don't care who the quarterback is. We don't care who – like at the end of the day, I don't really think Dolphin fans deeply care who we draft. Like just win. Like and just find a way to build guys that are fun to watch and fun to be around and bring joy to this organization, and winning will come from that.
Yeah. No, I agree. And the other thing both Sully and Halfley have come out and said is they do disagree on prospects. They both said they had watched a player on offense, and the exact same story they both said is Halfley came out and said, hey, if I'm game planning for this offensive prospect, I'm not afraid of him. And Halfley said that Sully had to go back and he had to rethink it, but Halfley also has to rethink that. So there's a good dynamic where, again, as we've said this a lot, Chris Greer, he would bring whoever the coach wanted in. And it has been shown coaches can be good scouts, but they're not good scouts.
But they're also, I think whether you're talking about a good scout or a bad scout for a head coach, they're not a scout. So they're the scouts and the GM and the people in the GM's office and his right-hand man, they are spending 24 hours a day, 7 days a week watching these prospects and watching everything about these prospects and talking to everybody. It is not realistic to expect a head coach to get bogged down to a prospect the way that it is. But what I love to see and what stands out to me from both Sully and Half is although there is confidence and although there is words being said, there's no ego in the actions. Yeah. And Halfley being able to say, I need to go back and reevaluate. Sully needs to go back and reevaluate. Things like that. Like that to me that's productive. Like that is, look, we'll see when the games start, and this could all be all talk, and we could come back at this point next year and be like, wow, we suck. But like, I
mean, we might, but that's because of this cap position we're in.
Well, I think that us sucking is different. We could have a very bad record and still look at this as a successful season. And that's the thing that I'm kind of looking for is, look, these guys don't have an ego. These guys are working hard, and I'm really, really excited and really happy with what I've seen over the last month or so. And I'm excited to see who, after all their research and all their talks and all their disagreements, I'm excited to see who they come out and draft.
Yeah, I am too. And I keep going back and forth. I would not be surprised if you see us go all secondary in round one. I could see us going safety. There are good picks for both. And here's a question I've been leaving out to people, just to go away from that. So let's say we take offensive lineman at 11, because I think everybody wants offensive line or edge in the first round. Let's just say we don't go edge 11. Let's say Bain, Bailey, and Reese are all gone. Is there anybody at 30 that you feel comfortable reaching on, or do you think the second round is a sweet spot for edge?
I think the second round's the sweet spot. I don't really think that there is an edge at 30 that I love, especially because I think there's a lot of talent at 30. And if we're not moving down and we're going to pick at 30, like we have so many needs. We're not an edge away from competing. So like you have,
and honestly, all the edges have issues.
Yeah. And you have to keep, especially this year, when you're picking, you have to pick best player available.
Yep.
Like even if that's a quarterback, even if that's a running back, like you have to pick best player available and get the best players on this team. The only position that I think that I would say, like, I wouldn't do that is if you see an offensive lineman prospect that is a left tackle only player, which I don't think that's a Green Bay type pick anyways, because I think that they like more versatile players that can play multiple positions on the line. But I think outside of a left tackle only prospect, I wouldn't be surprised with anything we did.
Yeah, and that's another thing that came out from Sully yesterday is he said he does not like drafting players or offensive linemen that can only play one position.
Which leads me to believe that your favorite Vega might be a little bit lower on our draft boards than people.
Yeah, I've been thinking that too, and I've honestly thought that for a while, that as much as I love Vega, and he is a player that if we draft, I will be pleasantly surprised. I think he's great. But I also kind of think he's probably off the board. And we've discussed it here. Green Bay likes to draft the tackles and move them inside. They like bigger guards too. Mobility and all that. Well, that is also a good segue, these conversations, into the rankings that I want to go over to you with. And we are going to do both offensive line, and I'll give you a choice. You want to do just corner, just safety, or defensive back together?
Is this a blind ranking?
This
or
is
we just
go with top 5 that you think fit our team the best.
We can go both. We can do defensive back.
Defensive back. Okay. So we will go ahead and start with offensive line. So Jordan, based off of what we're doing, and again, you can do it however you want, best available, best fit, who we realistically have a shot of. However you want to rank it. Let's hear your top 5 offensive linemen for the Dolphins.
Well, so it's funny because for a lot of this stuff you do, it's all right. A guy might be a 3rd round pick, but he's a great fit, and I could see us take him in the 3rd round, so I rank him higher. But for this, like a lot of those top guys are real fits for us. I think that the first 2 that you have to list are Maui Goa and Fano. I think that there is a very, very, very good chance that if one of those 2 are available at 11, that we take them.
Yeah, and the most recent talk, I don't know if you've seen this, says Cleveland views Fano as a left tackle. So he might be this.
Interesting. I also think that there is a lot of smoke and a lot of fire to that Cleveland trade down scenario with Dallas.
Yes.
They both have a lot of picks that kind of look like they could even out. And I that's just something I could see them doing. But I think Mauigoa and Fano both day one are playing right guard for us. And I think that there's a very good chance that one of them kick outside if Austin Jackson can't. I've also been thinking recently, and Brett, you and I haven't even talked about this. I wonder if there's even a potential plan to kick Austin Jackson inside.
It's possible. Like, apparently we've done research on Monroe Freeling. I don't think he can kick inside, but he has played right tackle. So maybe you kick Jackson in. But it's worth considering. I think Green Bay is basically you get your top 5 guys on the line. That's always been their strategy. So I think that's what we're going to do too. I think that's what San Francisco. I think that's what everybody in the Shanahan tree does. Honestly, is you just get your best 5 and make it work.
The next one I'll give you is Chase Besantis. I think that he's the only guy that is more of a guard only guy prospect that I could see us taking. I think he's athletic enough to move, and I think that when you're looking at them, even over a guy like Pregnon, even a guy like Jennings Dunker, who I love both of them, there's just something about Basantis' game that I think is going to stand out to Sully and half and the entire Dolphin front office. And I would not at all be surprised if he's the pick at 30. I know in our last mock draft, we had him going to Houston a couple picks before. The other two that I'll give you, these are my 4 and my 5. One is kind of a little cheating. It's Jude Bowery, who I'm very high on. And he was recruited by Halfley, played for Halfley. And I think that he is, when you look at a guy that's athletic enough to fit that profile, look, that Green Bay profile we've talked about is about 6'4", 6'5". He's 6'5", is about 305 to 315. He's 314. He's athletic and projects to possibly kick inside the guard. I would not be surprised at all if a round 3 or a round 4 pick is Jude Bowery. So that's 4. And then 5, he might be ranked a little higher than Bowery, but it's Austin Barber from the Gators. Again, he's another guy, very high RAS score, and is seen as a guy that could play tackle or play guard, can do a couple different things, and is very athletic. And to me, he's a guy that could play 4 out of the 5 positions, which is one thing that I'm looking for. Athletic and can play 4 positions. So that's, I don't know if we were counting, but I believe that's 5. It was the Fano, Mauigoa, Basantis, Bowery, and Austin Barber.
Yep. So, full disclosure, I think your top 3 are right, but just for a little bit of difference, I'm going to change it up. Not too much, because I think Mauigoa and Fano make the most sense as the top 2. Maybe can make an argument. And for argument's sake, I'm going to take Mauigoa off and just assume he's not going to be available. So I'll say Fano. Number 2 is actually Fano's college teammate, Caleb Lamu. One of the most athletic guards. I think he's like, I looked at his RAS score yesterday. We have met with him. He's like the 16th highest rated RAS for an offensive tackle since they've been keeping track. 26 straight starts left tackle. He's young. He's only a redshirt sophomore. He has played right tackle. And I did look up also looking at Fano too, looked up how Utah's offense run, and they pull their tackles a lot, which is not something you're used to seeing.
I was shocked when I was watching the film of Fano and Lomu, how much they pull their tackles.
Yeah. Number 3, he's going to be a mid-round pick, I think, but he is a riser and someone I would not be shocked to see us maybe reach a little bit on day 2, and that is Memphis offensive tackle Travis Burke. Very high RAS score. Again, he moves inside. He's been killing it during this draft process. So I fully expect him to be someone you look at and you say, maybe a day 2, someone that he may not be strong enough physically, but he's got the athleticism that you want to look at. Number 4 will be a guy who might be available at 30. It's Max Inyachor. I know there are some concerns about his age because born in Nigeria, no one can really confirm his age. I've seen some people say he's 22. I've seen some people say he's 24. He's got a little bit of developing to do, but if you look and see how good he is just on the fact that he didn't start playing, I don't think he started playing until he was out of high school. Like, I think he walked on at like a community college and started playing. And when you look at that, you're like, okay, so there's a lot to work at there. And he definitely fits. And the 5th one is a name that we really haven't talked a lot. He's a day 2 guy. And it's Northwestern's Caleb Tiernan.
I love Tiernan. I'm a big fan of Tiernan.
He's 6'8", so he might not be able to play guard. So he might just be the right tackle of the future. But the athleticism's there, and that's one of those things. Something we didn't like last year with taking Patrick Paul was he can't kick inside for a year, so you're basically redshirting. A lot of people might not like that, but Tiernan's the level of talent that I definitely could see them risking and just saying, you know what, let him redshirt for a year. We'll worry about that in 2027.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good list. And I think that max for me. I think it's look, and a lot of times when it comes to age, I'm like, if a guy's a good player, he's a good player. But if you're telling me I can have a raw 22-year-old or a raw 24-year-old, like I don't know if I want somebody that's raw that is going to take time to develop, and by the time he develops, he's already almost 30 years old.
Yeah. Nope. And speaking of that, the Ravens GM had a good quote on the older prospects saying he doesn't think it's a good thing because now they're just one, maybe 2 contract guys. So
yeah, and look, for me, I'm a big fan of drafting those kind of guys on day 3 because I think that they're going to come in and already kind of be able to step in and play, and you kind of know what you're going to get with those guys. But for early picks, and I know this is something Green Bay's done too, I kind of go on the side of drafting younger guys.
Yep. So that's why people like Messidor, even Prignon from Oregon, they're 24 now. They're going to be 25 as rookies. I think they're not on the board. Who knows? Maybe they also look and say, look, we need so much talent. You just get the most talented guy right now and you deal with it. But on to the defensive backs. And I'll go first since you did the offensive line first. And I will preface by saying it sounds like Caleb Downs his floor is 10. So I'm not going to put him in. But I think if we were to say number one best case scenario would be Caleb Downs.
Oh, for sure. Caleb Downs might be the best case scenario, period.
Yeah. But I'm not going to include him because I don't want to get my hopes up. Number one to me will be Mansour Delane. He's a little smaller than Green Bay likes, but I think he's just a better player. When you consider Jamard McCoy, there are some questions now. It came out that a lot of scouts didn't like how he ran his positional drills at his workout. Apparently now there's rumors he has the degenerative knee. So that kind of makes it tougher. I would still take him, but I'm going to drop him down this list just because, that knee scares me a bit. But, sometimes you got to bank on talent. But I would say Delane is number one. Number two is a guy I know you and I have argued about a bit, and I would say I could see him going 11, is Dylan Tiedemann. He could go later. It sounds like his floor is 19. Could go higher, but whether you like him or not, and I know you, Mr. S, keep bringing up the 40 missed tackles. We're going to do that. Caleb Downs had 33 missed tackles, so take that how you want. But Hafley's defense is so reliant on safeties. I would almost say that the safeties are more important than the cornerbacks. And Tiedemann, he is a true center field safety. He can come up, he can play close to the line of scrimmage, but he's best attacking from deep. Fitz, very athletic. Not saying to take him at 11, though I wouldn't mind depending on how the board fell. Not saying he's my first choice either. I think he's a perfect fit for the defense. Number 3, I would say, is Chris Johnson, a name that is going to go higher than a lot of people think. He seems to be locked in as the number 3 corner. I think some people were cold on him because he didn't look the greatest during Senior Bowl practices, but I think he as good of a prospect as any corner in this class. Number 4 is someone that we brought in for a visit, and that's AJ Halsey. Think he could be a day one starter. Think he could become a captain real early. Big hitter, enforcer, very smart, can play in the slot. Really like his fit. Number 5, funny, I did one corner. Number 5 is going to be a safety / nickel back, and he might not be on the board because he's a little older, but Traden Dukes out of Arizona. He play the slot, play deep safety, very smart, very physical, allows you to do bump and run, can be that big will if you need him to be that. Just those are my 5. And it's funny because you think corner is more important. In a lot of ways it is, but I just like for what we're trying to do, this safety class just makes so much more sense for us.
Oh, this safety class is awesome for what we need. And I've told you multiple times, I think we could draft 2 of them. Mm-hmm. The only name that you and I have similar is AJ Halsey. I think he could definitely be the pick at 43 because I think, again, he's a guy that you could see as a captain. He's a guy we brought in. Another guy we brought in that I could see possibly being the pick at 30 is Emmanuel McNeil-Warren.
Yep.
To me, I don't think Downs makes it to 11. I don't think Tiedemann makes it to 30. But honestly, there's a chance McNeil-Warren doesn't even make it to 30.
Yeah.
But I think that he's the one guy that I see in that safety class that we could take at 30. He is very long. He's not Nick Emanwari, but he, to me, is probably the closest thing in this draft to him. If you remember, and I'll tell you until the end of time, I had Emanwari as my number one safety last year, and I didn't even think it was close. And he was an absolute star for the Seahawks this year.
You look pretty right now.
So McNeil-Warren and AJ Halsey are my two. The other safety that I added in there is VJ Payne from Kansas State. Again, another bigger safety, 6'3", over 200 pounds. Kevin loves VJ Payne and has talked about how good of a fit he would be. But I just think that bigger safety over the top that we have the ability to add to this team is something that Hafley is going to look at. So
yeah,
I had to include VJ Payne. I think he would probably be a pick in like that 87 or 90 kind of range right there. And then I added two corners, Keontae Scott, another guy, again, physical. I mean, this guy is, to me, he plays a lot like a linebacker, where he hits hard, he plays downhill. I think he helps a lot in the run game as well. And the other corner, shout out to Mr. S, he's going to love me for this, is Dalen Everett. Again, played at Georgia, was their lockdown guy, played well in big moments, causes a lot of turnovers, and I could see him being somebody that we really like. So McNeil-Warren, Halsey, Payne, and then Keontae Scott and Dalen Everett.
Yeah, good list. And honestly, and we kind of mentioned this, the more I look at how the draft's going to fall, the more I'm kind of finding it difficult if we don't take Ruben Bain, if he's not there, as Jordan's lights go out.
You got to love those timer lights, huh?
Yeah, I just don't know where you take edge this year, because it just feels like there are guys you like, but it's like, well, you're projecting, you're taking a gamble, like even more normal. Zion Young seems good, but he doesn't have the athleticism. Gabe Yakis, same thing, just doesn't have the athleticism. And something Mr. S always points out is the one position that you need a high RAS score for is the edge. So it's very difficult. And then the high edge guys, the high RAS guys, like R. Mason Thomas, smaller. Cassius Howe, I don't know if he had a high RAS, but just using him. Everybody's talking about Ruben Bain's arms. Cassius Howe has even smaller arms than him. Like Malachi Lawrence is the one guy that you're like, and maybe Deni Dennis Sutton are the one and two guys that I'm like, okay, they have the least amount of questions, but they still have question marks.
So. Yeah, and you and I are both very high on Deni Dennis Sutton, and I think that he would to me be, if you told me to rank the edges, probably my number one for fit and realistic option for the Dolphins.
Yep. Is Deni Dennis last week, and you actually did have him number one.
Right, and you can have him at 75, hopefully. I don't know if he gets there, because I think that NFL teams are going to have him rated a lot higher than mock draft sites do.
There's also going to be a run. Day two, there's a run at a position. People go a lot higher. Absolutely. Remember last year when the corner run happened, we all had Upton Stout as a 5th rounder, and he went in the bottom of the 2nd, top of the 3rd. Yeah. So it's just what positions are going to get the run. But it'll be interesting to see. And preview for everybody, the day before the draft next week, we will be doing a live full first round mock, hopefully with guests, and we will go through each position with that too. But Jordan, you had some blind rankings for me. Let's hear them.
I will give you a choice, and we have about 25 minutes left, and I'll give you a choice. I have 3 rankings for you. The first is probably the most boring of the 3, which is ranking. I took out the top 10 on most big boards and went with 5 potential draft picks for number 11 overall. I went a blind ranking of 5 former Miami Dolphins head coaches, and because it's WrestleMania week and we're both wrestling people, a blind ranking of wrestlers.
Okay, let's skip the top. I think we all know draft prospects now. We all know who's going where. So let's do the Dolphins coaches and wrestlers.
Cool. So, blind rankings, obviously rank them 1 through 5. You don't know what's coming next. Brett, your first former Miami Dolphins head coach is Mike McDaniel. And Brett, I'm going to say that I thought about it after the last time we did it. I have the list of 5 written down, and I have the exact order that I'm going to read them written down. This will not change no matter what you say.
Does this include Don Shula? I feel like I can't even go. I'll say 3 for McDaniel. He had some good times. Like, the first 2 years were a lot of fun. It just kind of – there were some cracks in the armor, and then the last 2 years it kind of went to shit, if we're being honest. And then last year he showed an ability to adapt kind of with the running game, but it just felt like he didn't get it. But I'll say 3.
Brett, your number 2 or your second Miami Dolphins head coach is Tony Sparano.
2. Look, he took over a 1-15 team, won us a division. I liked Sparano. His issue then became he was too conservative to coach. And what's funny is we all hate it when he hired Brian Daboll as offensive coordinator, and Daboll developed into a great coach. The one thing I'll say, his team always played hard. They were disciplined. Discipline is something that our team has struggled with for years. So I get that. But, something I always think is he always had a great game plan. He just couldn't adjust in game either. Good coach. Part of me wishes he did, he could figure it out, because I think he could have been here a long time. And, he kind of got screwed over with the Harbaugh talk when Ross took over the team. But, yeah, I'd have him as number 2.
All right, so number 2, Tony Sparano. Number 3, Mike McDaniel. Your third coach is Dave Wanstead.
4. Wani, good guy. Ironically, he is
very nice guy. I met him in an airport once, and
Jeff Affleck said he's the biggest influence. Nice. Talk to him weekly. He's the last coach that won a playoff game for us. He took over a top. He could still build a defense. Even towards the end, he could build a defense. He could win. Just very conservative. He should not have. They gave him the Jimmy Johnson deal where he was GM and head coach. Famously took Jamar Fletcher over people like Chad Johnson and Drew Brees. The 2022 draft, traded all those picks for Ricky, and Ricky was great. Remember the 2023 draft it was where he drafted Eddie Moore in round 2, and even Eddie Moore said, I was told I'd be a 5th-round pick, so I was shocked to hear my name.
Not 2023.
2003, sorry. But, yeah, I think it's for you and me in our age group, we were just raised to feel like Wani wasted a great team when it was just a great defense. But yeah, I think 4 is fair.
Your 4th coach is Joe Philbin.
5. There's one coach that could be that, and if it's 1, I'm going to just say, whatever. But 5, there was really nothing to like about Joe Philbin. He was just kind of there. He didn't call plays when he got hired. He wasn't charismatic. He couldn't deal with
Queasy Joe. Queasy Joe.
Yeah, Queasy Joe. There's just nothing. He's an offensive line guy who couldn't build an offensive line.
All right, Brett, are you ready for your
number 1 is probably going to be worse than him record-wise, but his teams, the Joe Philbin Dolphin teams, were probably some of the most boring I remember watching as a fan.
Brett, before we go over your finished top 5, do you have a guess of who the 5th name is?
It's either Don Shula, Adam Gase, Brian Flores, or Cam Cameron. It's one of those 4.
So you are right. It is one of those 4. Your 5th Miami Dolphins head coach is Joe Philbin.
Yep.
Your 4th is Dave Wanstead. Your 3rd is Mike McDaniel. Your 2nd is Tony Sparano. And Brett has rated as his favorite Dolphins coach of all time, Cam Cameron.
I knew that was coming. I knew it was going to be Cam Cameron. Look.
What's funny is I really battled between Cam Cameron and Don Shula. Like
Yeah.
I really
I had to leave one open in case it was Don Shula. I really had to. So I will say this, and this is not me being like, this is me being going back to
justify Cam Cameron as best head coach in Dolphins history.
Well, it was a memorable season. I'll say that.
I'll say if you told me to rank in a realistic ranking, like my top couple moments in 33 years of being a Dolphins fan, Cleo Lemon to Greg Camarillo in overtime to beat the Ravens is pretty damn high up there.
Yeah. On it, if like I will say this, I remember back then when Saban left, Cam Cameron was mine and most people's number one because he was offensive coordinator for the best offense and the best team in the NFL that year for the Chargers. Then I remember Marty Schottenheimer came out and said during that page, like before the Patriots playoff game that they lost, that he was giving Cam full control. And that was the first red flag because they looked awful and they went away from LaDainian Tomlinson when he was the MVP and set like a touchdown record.
If things are going wrong and a head coach says that he's giving you all the control.
Yeah. And he's famous for the famous story is Wayne Huizenga openly admitted that Mike Tomlin was the best interview for head coach, but he felt he needed to hire an offensive coach because they had Dom Capers. This is the blind ranking getting me. I can't really defend it other than the fact we got the first round pick and Cam Cameron being so bad led to Bill Parcells gutting the team, which then led to a very fun 2008 year. But that's all I got for you. That's as positive I can be. I will say that I like Cameron more than Joe Philbin because Cameron, the other thing to say is Cameron got destroyed by injuries that year. Like we were on like our 6th or 7th string safety and 6th or 7th string running back. Everybody was hurt. Zach had concussion issues. Trent Green had concussion issues. We drafted John Beck, who sucked. But as bad as he was, I think part of that's also just like you can't justify 1-15 year, but he had injuries. Joe Philbin just was bored. Like Joe Philbin, what came out of Joe Philbin? Bullygate. That's it. Can't really say anything about that. So I would.
Was Chris Forrester with Philbin too?
No, that was Wani because
no.
He was our tight end coach under Wanstead. He got promoted to offensive coordinator Wanstead's last year because the offensive coordinator retired. And Forster was also here under Gase.
That's who it was. That was when the scandal took place.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you just move everybody up. And if we're being fair, I probably, for success' sake, I probably should have put Wani 1. But feeling-wise, 4. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Cameron was only here for a year, so while he sucked and he was the worst coach in our history, he was just here 1 year. So it's like I can't really have outstanding hatred for him, especially when we went on to win the next year. So,
all right, Brett. It is WrestleMania week, one of my favorite weeks of the year. Actually, it's funny because WrestleMania week and the NFL draft are probably 2 of my favorite weeks of the year,
and they're right there. They're days between each other.
So, blind ranking 5 wrestlers. Are you ready?
Yep.
Your first name is Stone Cold.
Number 2, because I grew up a WCW fan. So I always knew Stone Cold, and he was the guy like of our childhood, but I was a WCW fan, so I got to leave a spot open in case you name a WCW guy.
The second name that I will give you is Cody Rhodes.
5. I like Cody. He's just kind of there.
Okay, so you have Stone Cold 2, Cody Rhodes 5. Your third name, he might at this moment have worms in his mouth still, is the Boogeyman.
4. Boogeyman was fun. He just couldn't wrestle and he was old. That's the story that goes around is he like tried out and said he was 35. And they're like, are you sure? And he kept saying he was 35. And he's like, no, I'm actually 45. And he had 2 bad knees. But he was funny. He's fun. He got over. So, yeah, I'll put him ahead of Cody.
So you have 2, 4, and 5. So you have 1 and 3 left with 2 names left. The fourth name that I'll give you is the never seen 17, the man who just recently, quote unquote, retired and then unretired right after, is John Cena.
You know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to put Cena 1 because, he took over and became he was the guy for what, 20 years?
Yeah.
Plus, I love his movies are funny. Peacemaker was a great show too. So just because he's Peacemaker, no matter growing up in the age,
Peacemaker is a damn good show.
He was Peacemaker, so he's number 1.
All right. So Brett, you have number 1, John Cena. Number 2, Stone Cold. Number 3 is blank. Number 4 is the Boogeyman. And number 5 is Cody Rhodes. Okay. Do you have any guess who the last name is? Who your third favorite wrestler is?
Is it going to be CM Punk?
It is not going to be CM Punk.
And I don't know.
It is Doink the Clown.
I actually did like Doink. Do you remember the old WrestleMania game on Super Nintendo where you just ran through? I always use Doink in that. He was actually a creepy character. His heel music is actually some of the best heel music ever. Shout out to Matt Bourne, who was the first Doink the Clown, who played it as a very creepy character. Doink was creepy. Clowns are creepy, and it was a good heel character. I'm fine with that. If you want to be honest, my favorite wrestler of all time is Sting. So, he is who got me into wrestling. So, as soon as you said Cena, I'm like, I'm not getting Sting. So, I'll put Cena up there. But, I'm good with that list.
So, again, number 1, Cena. Number 2, Stone Cold. Number 3 is Doink. Number 4 is the Boogeyman. And number 5 is Cody Rhodes.
Yeah. And let's also be clear, when Stone Cold was at his highest, my dad didn't really let me watch WWF because of how raunchy it got. So I saw a lot of that stuff afterwards, and I was like, oh, this is why my dad didn't want me watching that.
When my brothers were very, very young, I remember I had it, what was it? Shut Your Mouth for, I think it was PS2 at the time. And I used to have to wait until after my younger brothers went to sleep before I was allowed to play the wrestling game. That was my realization that maybe wrestling is a little raunchy.
Yep. And we'll end by saying this. I know the Panther fans aren't happy, but NBA playoffs started. Yes, the playing game started a couple days ago. Hockey playoffs start this weekend. My Penguins are back, even though we thought we were going to be in the draft lottery. We get the Flyers in round 1. My roommate's a Flyers fan. One of us is going to punch the other, but before that, it should be fun. It is a great time. We'll be back next week for a draft. We'll probably get Kev and one other person on it and just do what we did last year and then rotate the picks. Join. Maybe we'll see how it works out. Maybe we can do live reactions to Dolphins picks. I know the dive bar is going live, so maybe not, or maybe we do something, but we'll figure it out. Next Thursday is going to be a fun day.
Next Thursday is definitely going to be a fun day. I can't wait.
Yep. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and we will talk to you then.